Good evening, everyone. It is 7 p.m. and I'm going to call to order the regular City Council meeting of the City of Richfield. It is September 26, 2023. If you are able, please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we'll go to the open forum. If you are listening virtually, you can call into open forum by dialing 1-415-655-0001. The webinar access code is 2634-625-3795, and the password is 1234. Is there anyone who is currently called in, City Clerk Leslie?
Mayor Supple, there is not.
All right. We do have one resident who is in the room that has called or that has signed up. So I'm going to call Kathleen Balaban to the podium.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. My name is Kathleen, and I live on 65th and Stevens Avenue South, and we've met before. I receive various pamphlets and brochures throughout the year from Richfield School District, Recreational Services Division, and an annual update that are informative for their respective services and targeted audiences. On the Residents Resource page on Richfield's website, there is a residence guide that was last updated in 2019. The date was removed from the updated front page, but on page 3, Pat Elliott is noted as the mayor. For all practical purposes, this is the only page that really needs to be updated, as most of the telephone numbers are still valid. This is a very informative document with minimal maintenance requirements on a regular basis. However, this guide hasn't been updated in quite some time, and staff should take a look to see if some of the services are still being provided. The things you should know section, we can update with recycling, organic recycling, and some of the things that are new since 2018. With moderate updates and photos, the current 16-page guide could stay under 18 pages or 9 sheets front and back of recycled paper. However, I suggest that we increase it to 18 sheets of paper, and with a flip of the wrist, we can read either English or Spanish. Okay, English or Spanish. Once created, I'm suggesting that the city not only offer it free at City Hall, the community center, library, and other local businesses, but also to send it to every new updated guide to every household. First time out, maybe every 3 to 5 years. But it needs to be out there, and it needs to be accessible to the public. With all due respect, this is the third time I'm asking to have this guide updated so that at the very least I can share it with my neighbors. In the past, it has been via emails to the city staff, city manager, assistant city manager, etc. I'm now asking the city council to update this and get it to us as residents. It's very informative, and we can really use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Is there anyone else that it's online?
There is not.
All right, then we'll move on to approval of the minutes of the City Council work session of September 26, 2023, and the City Council meeting of September 26, 2023.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Wait, I'm going to pause for a second. It says September 26th. I believe we mean September 12th.
Yes, my apologies,
The
Mayor Supple.
minutes are correct. It's just the issue on the agenda, right?
All right. So you're moving the September 12th?
Thank you. I am moving the September 12th minutes.
All right.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the council work session of September 12th and the city council meeting of September 12th minutes. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we've approved those minutes. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to approval of tonight's agenda.
I would move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any changes or comments? All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we have approved our agenda. Next, we'll move on to our presentations. So our first proclamation is going to be given to the members of, or was presented by the members of the HRC Commission, and they'll be receiving it for the Human Rights Commission. Whereas the path towards LGBTQ plus equality and liberation has been paved by courageous persons who have fought for the right to love and be loved and the right to be who they are, and their positive societal contributions of advancing areas of diversity, inclusion, equity, and respect deserve recognition. And whereas LGBTQ plus History Month celebrates and commemorates those who fought for equal rights and services for the LGBTQ plus community and is a means of educating others, promoting a culture of acceptance and inclusivity, and advancing equality for all. And whereas the teaching of LGBTQ plus history has been historically suppressed and currently books about LGBTQ plus history are being banned, the City of Richfield stands with its LGBTQ plus community members and all of our citizens in support of the accurate teaching of history and honors the champions of LGBTQ plus equality and the importance of their contributions. And whereas the City of Richfield is proud of its diverse community, committed to equality for individuals of all sexual orientations, gender identities, and expressions, and fully supports the compassionate and respectful treatment of our LGBTQ plus community members. And whereas the City of Richfield will be holding its first ever Pride celebration on September 21st, 2024, which will celebrate LGBTQ plus individuals and families who love and support their LGBTQ plus family members and all LGBTQ plus people. And whereas the City of Richfield endeavors to eliminate prejudice wherever it exists, recognize the multitude of identities that make each of us unique individuals, and envision a safe, inclusive world that allows all members of society to live openly and truthfully. Now, therefore, I, Mary Supple, Mayor of the City of Richfield, on behalf of the Richfield City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as LGBTQ History Month in the City of Richfield, and call on the people of Richfield to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies to continue to honor the contributions to our collective history of LGBTQ plus Americans throughout the year, proclaimed this 26th day of September 2023. And so then I'm going to call forward Commissioner Glupka from the Human Rights Commission to receive this. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Do we get a picture too?
Sure.
And as you can see, we already mentioned Pride right in the proclamation. Hi, my name is Mara Glupka, and I'm a member of the Human Rights Commission here in Richfield. I'm in my second term, actually. And I wanted to say a couple of things about LGBTQ history. Most of it's kind of sad. You may know some of the things that have happened over the years. You may not know that the Holocaust wasn't just a Holocaust of people wearing Stars of David's. The Holocaust also included people who wore pink triangles, and that would have been people like me. So we were exterminated right along with the Jewish people during World War II in Germany. Some of the other things that have happened is there was a nightclub a fire 50 years ago in New Orleans where somebody poured lighter fluid on the only stairs to the entrance of the second floor club and burned 29 people alive, including the mother of 2 sons who was with her sons. At the, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can look at this. Yeah, that was called the upstairs lounge fire. And then you all know about Pulse, where 49 people were blown away back in 2016. There's a lot of suffering and death in the LGBTQ community. As a matter of fact, that would be the bulk of our history. But the current history is that people are fleeing some of the states that they live in to protect their children. And I wanted to honor that by reading the account of one of my friends who had to flee her home state of Missouri recently. We are down to the last few days and nights in our family home. It feels like our move has been taking forever, and yet all of a sudden it's imminent. Moving with multiple pets adds layers of complications that take time to resolve. We took our chickens to our new home today. That means we didn't have to put them to bed and secure their coop tonight. That has been a daily, nightly chore for a decade. I love my girls. I love talking to them every day. Every day of the moving process, I find myself saying, wow, this is real. This is making it feel real. This is what it's come to. Having our chickens go to a new home today, living creatures whose safety and well-being I've been responsible for over the last few years, hurts. I brought them home with a commitment to caring for them for the entirety of their lives. But my greater commitment is clearly to my children, to my transgender child. The trans community is trying to navigate a nightmare with thousands of families fleeing their homes in an attempt to find safety and peace. It shouldn't be happening, yet it is. And the silence about it from anyone not directly affected is devastatingly deafening. My home is much quieter tonight. There are no clucks or coos of content hens settling in for the night in a place that they know is secure and where they can find rest easy. And I will spend another night tossing and turning with a million thoughts about how to obtain security and safety while the rest of the world is silent. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing those powerful words, and thank you for receiving the proclamation on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. We appreciate your leadership.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Did any one of the other councils want to say anything?
I want to take it. Yeah, I just want to have a picture from here. You wouldn't mind. Thanks, Council.
And did anyone have anything else to add? All right, then we'll move on to our second proclamation. Whereas gun violence has touched our community, our state, and the nation in many tragic ways, and whereas every day more than 110 Americans are killed by gun violence, an additional 200 more are shot and wounded, and on average there are nearly 17,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other countries with Minnesota experiencing 497 deaths from firearms every year. And whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as rates of gun violence increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas our community has experienced a surge in gun-related incidents, including gun violence involving youth, as well as increased calls to suicide and domestic violence hotlines. And whereas guns are the second leading cause of death among children and teens in Minnesota, an average of 41 children and teens die by guns every year. And Whereas recently in our community, there have been tragic gun-related deaths and injuries among youth, some of which occurred on school grounds. And whereas cities across the nation, including Richfield, are working to end the senseless violence and find healing for our communities. And whereas the new school year starts, we urge elected officials to establish common sense gun regulations which prevent gun violence in America and ensure our communities are safe. And whereas let us take this time to become more caring and understanding community, state, and nation, where everyone can live a life untouched by gun violence. Now, therefore, I, Mary Supple, Mayor of the City of Richfield, do proclaim that the City of Richfield, Minnesota, and its citizens, that September is hereby recognized as a time of healing and reflection on gun violence, including self-inflicted and purposeful violence to others. Proclaim this 26th day of September 2023. Thank you. Did anyone on the council wish to add anything? Councilmember Whalen.
I'll just say to the points that Mara made, unfortunately, these two proclamations are not totally separate, but as we last council meeting celebrated with our legislators the progress that we've made in Minnesota, I'll just say that I'm proud to be in a state that has leaders who've declared it a refuge for trans folks who increasingly are fleeing, as was said, but increasingly using the word refugee within their own country. And also that we finally, it's a low bar, but a low bar that many states and our country as a whole have not reached, but passing some common sense gun regulations last year as well at the state level. And so obviously much more to do, but want to give thanks for the people who are working on taking action to address both things.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you for the staff that helped put this together and also for the families that reached out with their concerns and asked us to do this. We really want to support them. Thank you. At this point, I would like to welcome our County Commissioner, Debbie Gotel, and she's going to do a presentation. So welcome, Commissioner Gotel.
So they're going to be getting my presentation up. Here we come. There we go. Mayor Supple and City Council members, City staff who are all here, it's nice to see all you. It's great to be at my hometown, City Hall, making a presentation, an annual presentation to you, and doing it in person because we're not in a pandemic state right now. So very honored to be here. And for those audiences at home, I'm Debbie Gotel, the Hennepin County Commissioner for this district. And my district is Bloomington, Richfield, a big portion of Eden Prairie, mostly south of Crosstown, and then I actually picked up a couple of precincts in southwest Minneapolis, so now I actually even represent Minneapolis these days. It's a very big territory. You know, a lot of people ask, what does a Hennepin County Commissioner do? That's a really common question. We are the second largest government in the state with a very large budget, and yet we're very much under the radar, and that's why I think it's so important for me to become here to talk to you. This, you know, in the cities you have, you know, cities and counties and schools. We're the 34th largest county in the nation in population, so we're not even a small county, but county commissioners just kind of fall off the radar. We just do the hard work, and I don't think we hit the papers a lot. Maybe that's a good thing. So, you know, our board is made up of 7 commissioners, functions much like a city council does. We steward a roughly $2.7 billion annual budget across a broad range of topics, some of them human and health services. You'll see that up here on the graph that we have displayed. And public health, public safety, public works, a lot of these things, you know, that a city would have. And resident services, which also includes libraries and elections. Disparity reduction is the overarching driver and principle that's embedded in all of the work that we do. Through our HRA, we also steward considerable investments in housing and economic development. We do this on behalf of a 1.26 million diverse residents. That's about 1 in 5 Minnesotans actually live in the Hennepin County. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the budget. On the budget last week, we approved a $991.3 million max property levy for the 2024 county budget. I know this is budget season. You've already set your levy as well. This is an increase of 6.5% from last year, or an amount of $60.5 million. Administrator Huff presented the $2.64 billion proposed budget to the board, which we will examine and modify throughout the next several months in many briefings that we get on the budget, which start actually next week. This proposed budget prioritizes deep investments in affordable housing in our Hennepin County workforce, while also maintaining innovative programs born out of the pandemic response and recovery. So we had some one-time monies out of that, but we also had some programming that was so successful that we decided we had to figure out how to put it in the budget long-term. So budget hearings take place until December, and then the schedule can be found on www.hennepin.us/budgets. I've also brought some handouts to show you some of the, and it's, Graham, would you mind grabbing those handouts, and if you send them over to the city clerk, they can pass those out. These are the same handouts that you make, but this is countywide, that shows the impact to each house and level of dollars of the house as to how much the 6.5% increase of the levy would be there. So this is my senior policy aide, Graham. Thank you for being here tonight, Graham. So speaking of the pandemic, we were allocated $246 million in federal recovery funds throughout the pandemic. And this required some pretty smart and fast movements, some innovative programs, and helping our residents emerge even stronger and more resilient. As of Q2 of 2023, we've spent $111 million of those funds, and the remainder allocated and all ready to be out the door before 2024. So it's already all allocated. You can see some of those large investments in the areas in this slide. Housing and homelessness. We already spend $140 million on housing and housing services as a county as a base budget. We added $82 million to that through the pandemic. We spent that on the actual shelters. We renovated their air conditioning, their heating and venting systems. We updated their bathrooms. We made their spaces safer. We also added staffing, and Hennepin County help pay for those extra staffing, so they can go 24/7. And so that we also have county services that come into the shelters now, rather than asking them to come down to try to get through the government center. So that's a totally different way that we have run that program, and we're going to keep that. We think that that's been wildly successful. So we've also helped in housing. We help people pay their mortgages. We help them pay their rents. We helped them pay their utilities, and we gave them budgeting dollars for food and helped them with their food pantries. So there was a lot that we've done, but we put a lot of dollars in behavioral health. I'll speak more to that. Economic recovery with a global basic income for some folks. That's a pilot that's going on currently. Employment strategies. We added a lot of dollars for all kinds of job training for people and retraining for their jobs. We also did a ton of money into the community for Trusted Voices for Violent Prevention to try to turn the tides of what we have been seeing in our neighborhoods. And then we did a lot about broadband and digital inclusion, and that even means literally going down, talking and working with getting more broadband out to them, getting hotspots out to them, getting smartphones and iPads, our books, notebooks out to folks, and not only that, but teaching them how to use it, helping them set up the internet. This was important work that we did to keep people whole there. But public safety is the next topic. I want to talk about the mental health issues. This topic comes up really often and even greater importance after the COVID-19 pandemic. Hennepin County is working on many fronts to mitigate and build out a mental health supports across our entire continuum of care and working towards improving public safety and justice outcomes in the process. The critical space where the issues intersect is with our police embedded social worker program. Started in 2019, you're an early adopter. Thank you, Richfield. You're always innovative. We always appreciate that. This is an essential new response method serving municipalities in Hennepin County with 45 workers now. In 2020 alone, Richfield received 518 mental health calls, 200 of which were referred to PESW programs. Through quarter 2 of 2023, we have 66 referrals and 20 clients referred to a range of social services, including mental health, drug treatment, housing, and employment services. Every city, every part of the city is covered with an embedded social worker now. That's how successful you were when you started these pilots. I think it was you, Bloomington, and the Brooklyns. So thank you for being an early adopter. So See Mental Health is a countywide campaign and one of the many responses to the negative impact of COVID-19 pandemic. The campaign is intended to emphasize the importance of conversation and connection and reduce the stigma and isolation. The campaign targets youth, veterans, seniors, and diverse communities. We See Mental Health campaign is made possible by the federal pandemic recovery funds. As of quarter 2 of 2023, the campaign has received 70 million impressions, 34 digital impressions reaching youth, and 16.3 million total impressions for communities of color. So we think those are the much needed and those are the most impacted, and we're really working at making a difference there. According to the CDC, more than 4 in 10 students feel persistently sad or hopeless, and 1 in 3 experiencing poor mental health. This painful trend has only gotten worse as a result of the pandemic. Through our school board mental health partnership, we are now providing services to more than 7,000 students, and as of 2023, this program is in every district and every public school countywide. Now, we do meet with our superintendents on a regular basis to see how this is going, and I do know that there are problems with keeping some of the mental health caseworkers, and this is really a difficult time. We are doing our best, but there are not enough staff to go around. This is true across the nation. We don't have enough mental health caregivers in all kinds of fields to do this. So, you know, among this crisis of loneliness and social disconnection of our students, we're trying as hard as we can to keep those things fully staffed as much as we can. And it's really hard because once you start with a counselor and then you have to start over with a no one, it really sets you back. So we can really appreciate what things are going on in your schools. We also like to talk about a full economic recovery following the end of the COVID-19 public health emergency. You know, this means continuing to support our small businesses as we did with the loans, the backbone of our community and our economy. During the pandemic, the Small Business Relief Fund in Hennepin County provided $70 million in recovery grants to small businesses, with 101 grants totaling $1.13 million in Richfield alone. So Richfield, and you were very successful also with your own program. I know your staff handed me cards and I went and passed them out. And a lot of those businesses got those loans, and a lot of the businesses I go to got those loans. So you were extremely effective. Thank you very much. But we know our responsibility doesn't end here. That's why we're continuing to leverage Elevate Hennepin, a resource hub connecting local entrepreneurs to expert advisors at no cost on a wide range of topics listed here. Folks can visit elevatehennepin.org to learn more. And there's lots of other programs inside that or along with that. There is CEO Now and CEO Next, and there's a mentor program also. There's all kinds of programming that will help people. I was just at one of those cohorts today, congratulating them on finishing their 13 weeks of class, and their businesses are really thriving. 2 of those people who were in that room were saying they were going to close their businesses down, but because of this, they found a path forward. So isn't that amazing? So there's a lot more work to be done. So thank you for all the help that you do, because we get a lot of our business leads from cities and chambers of commerce. So we appreciate that. So these are some of the other programs. This is a one-piece broadcast strategy. We're going to support entrepreneurs and businesses at every stage, including through a range of programs you can see here. I've talked about several of those. Thousands of businesses have used Elevate Hennepin, including more than 1,600 who have accessed over 13,000 hours of free. I want people to know it's free one-on-one advertising or cohort learning opportunities. So whether you have a new idea, you're looking to scale, we're here to meet those needs and help you. We really want to change how businesses view government. We want to be the helping hand that helps people with businesses. Small businesses employ more people than corporations, and most people prefer to work for a small business. And so I'm really glad to be a huge supporter of this program. So, Southdale Library. Let's move on to something that's near and dear to our hearts. We're so excited that the Southdale Library project is finally coming to pass. After years of planning, a pandemic, and everything, we are here again. Funds are included in the 2024 proposed budget to proceed with the new construction. This work, of course, can't move forward without community input. So that's why Hennepin County hosted its most recent engagement session for Southdale Library on August 31st as part of a series of events to engage residents in the new building. Some of the big takeaways, as seen in the word cloud, people want an accessible one-level and welcoming space with access to natural light and outdoor green space. A couple of fun facts about Southdale are it's the 4th most visited library in Hennepin County, welcoming 185,000 visitors in 2022. You know, when they say, and that doesn't, you know, everybody, I check out digitally. That's without that. I mean, think about that. That's still tons of visits. It's the 6th highest volume of physical checkouts, more than 250,000 first-time checkouts in 2022. So that's quite an accomplishment. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes and everything on this, and I know I've talked to the mayor about this and some of the great ideas, and I know I put the city managers, both cities, Edina and Richfield, have been talking. The arts centers have been collaborating together. This is going to be such a great project. I'm so excited about what I'm hearing and what's coming out of this so far. And I'll take questions in just a few minutes. I'm nearly done. I wanted to talk more because you know a lot of us know about our climate plan and everything and the organics recycling. But one of the things we like to talk about is something completely different. It's about the trees, and we just gave canopy grants just today at the board meeting. So this is a very bold goal of planting 1 million trees by 2030 in collaboration with our local partners. That would be you. We estimate that 348,000 trees will have been planted since 2020 by year's end. The goal is to mitigate the loss of the tree canopy due to the emerald ash borer and other pests, with a special focus on improving the equity of the tree canopy, reducing air pollution, and combating urban heat island effect. Some of the really great things that I wanted to highlight about the program is $500,000, which is made available through our Healthy Tree Canopy Grant Program annually to cities, schools, and affordable housing providers of nonprofits. And I will have to say that we are definitely oversubscribed in this. There are more great proposals and grants than we can get to, and there is some discussion about how much money we have in that pool, so stay tuned. We also have wholesale tree purchasing opportunities for Hennepin County and your cities, so you can get a very big discounted rate, and we grow them our own. We have a tree farm out in it's a rock bed tree farm, so they're easy accessible. And we also have a forestry pathways program for helping bring youth and young adults into this as a career path, and the county's first ever urban tree carbon-free offset sales program. So that's a new program that we're working on too. So stay tuned, more to come. And I just couldn't say anything more. I have to bring this up. I'm so excited and stating the obvious here, but yeah, I'd be remiss about the opening of the 77th Street underpass. I've been through, I don't know, about a half dozen tours of that as it was being built. You know, it's great to celebrate with the partners here. And, you know, it's partners from the past, but the council that's here, and the city staff that's here, and the city staff from before, and the councils all before. This has been decades in the making, and the residents of Richfield, who have all been very supportive of this and enjoying the convenience, we are really going to enjoy this when the big part of 494 starts to get crunched. And we've already taken it to the airport to pick up and drop off folks. It is so much more convenient. This is a great feat. So I want to just say a big round of thank you to so many people. But lastly, the partnership of our public works. We work very closely and very well with the city of Richfield. I wanted to include this map of some of the future infrastructure projects on the horizon. I won't go through all of these line by line, but I wanted to personally extend a big thanks for the collaboration between Richfield and Hennepin County that made these improvements possible. Note the ongoing work of Nicollet wrapping up this year and into 2026, as well as the open house for I-494 hosted by MnDOT coming in October. I am happy to provide more details on all this and work schedules if you would like them. And I will tell you that Penn Avenue is on my mind and on my regular agenda with our Public Works Department. And it's not just here in the city of Richfield, it's also Bloomington who is also speaking up about this. And they have their own issues with that, and that needs a road diet for them as well. That's part residential and commercial, and the speeds are way too fast through there. So I just wanted to say how much, you know, I appreciate that, and I've got my eye on that. So at this time, Mayor Supple, I wanted to give this back to you, and I know there were some questions. Would you like me to address more of the homeless issue that people wanted to hear about?
Yes, thank you so much for your leadership and also for all the services you're providing. And I had spoken with Commissioner Gotel ahead of time that we've been hearing a lot of concerns about what we can do to support those individuals that are without shelter. And some of the feedback that we had gotten when our social workers had talked to those individuals is they said they wanted more safety in the shelters. So if you could speak to that, that would be great.
So we are now 24/7 shelters, at least if Hennepin County dollars are there with them. There's, I think, only one or two, but they really are truly day drop-in kind of things. They don't have capacity to do overnights. But we have, and we've brought staff there for security reasons, and we've made them more secure just by the way we have built them and put the cameras and the infrastructure in there to do those. So those are much more. But what we lack are, even though we have doubled our low barrier shelters, we still lack space for those. And that means that somebody is still using while they're in one of those facilities. What quite often happens is somebody is still in addictions issues, and they can't access the shelters unless they're not using. So that is a difficulty that we face. If they are experiencing true mental health, I'm sure that your police chief is here. He knows about 1800 Chicago. We now have that open 24/7. So if people need to be dropped off, they can be dropped off at that facility, and it stays open all night long, and they can get help and they can be seen. And when an appropriate shelter is opened up for them, they can get moved into there rather quickly through that system, but they will get checked out by a doctor, and they will be offered all types of medical services and all kinds of social services as well. Those are the things we have. We also have a team that goes out daily to homeless encampments and homeless. If you have an encampment or people you know about, we have a person besides your social worker we have teams of people who can go out and make a one-on-one call to them from our team in Hennepin County to offer them. And what they do is they try to make a friendship and a bond over a period of time to be able to help that person, you know, by first bringing food and first just meeting them and then coming with Metro bus tickets and other things to try to get a rapport so we can find out if there are services that we can offer. We help people from everything from getting birth certificates and license or IDs, you know, those kinds of things back so that they can get this and get them back on their feet, get them housed so that they can get job training and mental and physical health issues taken care of. But it's a long road, and some people, quite frankly, aren't ready to accept that. I've been out with the homeless folks, and I've talked to them in groups, and many of them just, quite frankly, won't go to the shelters. They're not ready to go there. And I worry about them. I know it's not safe for them. Most of those encampments are where they're staying. There is a lot of aggressive behavior goes on. We don't send those teams out in the nighttime because it's not safe. And there's all kinds of reported of assaults and things. There's needle paraphernalia around those sites and everything. And there are people who just come to those camps, unfortunately, to take advantage of those folks. And so when you see some of those camps broken up, those people have been notified well in advance if Hennepin County is there. We give them several weeks' notice. We try to get them to go into better services as far as for shelter or someplace else that's safe. And we try to help them do that, and we give them daily notices. We also come with food, water, medical. We vaccinate people out there in the encampments. We do whatever is needed to try to keep them as stable as we can. So that's kind of the story of what we see out there. So I can understand, you know, people maybe not feel safe because people have mental health issues in some of those places, and it's probably not pretty to see. And some of them can, you know, act out in the middle of the nights and such like this. We do have security there to take care of those kinds of things, but it's probably not an easy place to stay for some folks. I can well imagine that. In some places we have smaller shelters. We have women's shelters. We have some that are specific to Native American. And so as more of those shelters are developed, that will help. We have family shelter. We do not mix family. We try to house them within 24 hours in a hotel room, if nothing else. We are 300% oversubscribed for families. We are in a shelter in Bloomington, and the city's been very helpful, allowing us to be in there for a very long time. We thought we would be out of that shelter. We are not. And the reason is that when the moratorium on evictions ended, we thought that there would be an uptick, and there was. We thought there would be an uptick and then a downward slide. There is not a downward slide. They're still going up. We have attorneys at eviction court catching these people and representing them so that they don't get eviction notices, or if we can work a deal out with a landlord, either to keep them there, pay part of their rent, or at least if they're not, to get them housed someplace else and get them the social service wraparound services so we catch them right there. We need to try to figure out how to get upstream because these people are landing. We cannot get ahead of this yet, and we're not quite sure what the whole issue is. This was very unexpected. So thus when we did a 6.5% increase in our budget, a lot of that was for worker pay, which I know you too have given your workers a raise they deserve after this pandemic who stayed with you, and healthcare has gone up. But we're also putting on a lot of full-time equivalents into social services because we only see the need rising. We don't have enough people to take care of the need right now. That's exactly where we're at. It's not a great place to be, but we're trying to deal with it right now.
Thank you for addressing that and all additional information. Are there other questions that council members would like to ask or comments? Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner, for being here tonight. I just wanted to touch on two other items in your presentation. It's certainly great to hear the breadth of what the county is doing, and I know you're doing really good work. Specifically, the Southdale Library, I just wanted to express I am glad to see that is back, and particularly glad to see that it's back at the 70th and York site. I was very concerned about the previous proposal to move it further away from Richfield and much harder to walk and bike to. I'm so grateful to be close to my Hennepin County Library at Augsburg Park, and I know it's just as important for West Richfield to be able to walk and bike to that library. So I'm really glad it will remain at that site, and I look forward to a great process to get a community-oriented development and hopefully a good use of the rest of the site as well. I did also want to just comment on the street work. I appreciate hearing that you're continuing to advocate for Penn Avenue, and I absolutely know that I am preaching to the choir, but I just want to express that not only is it a bad street, it prevents us from doing good economic development on that corridor. We can't create a walkable business district when you can't walk outside the property. So it continues to be very important for us, and we are grateful for your advocacy. I also just wanted to say, watching the start of the Nicollet Avenue project, I've served as liaison to the Transportation Commission, and I've seen your staff working there. I'm just really impressed at the positive change out of transportation planning at Hennepin County, that even in the 66th Street project, even 5 years ago when I was an intern there, I think the attitude is much more open-minded towards multimodal. It has significantly improved, and it feels very collaborative with the city. And I really think Nicollet Avenue is going to be our best, county city project to date. So I'm just really happy with the direction, and I thank you for your support in those projects.
Well, let me give you just a little bit more context. So I have sat with our Public Works Department about this, so these very things. And so there's been a lot of good communications, and there's been some new faces that you probably have seen. And I think that's helped a lot, too. But I've also talked about how we're grading some of the roads. And I said, what you're not grading is what's underneath there. And what is underneath Penn Avenue prohibits some of the great redevelopment because we don't have a water main line that's large enough to accommodate sprinklers. And I said, but that's not in your grading system. And I said, that needs to be in there. And those are some of the things that I have done. And I know that this is a project that's poised to move up as the infrastructure dollars come. So, and as I was saying before, it's not just an issue that just now for Richfield. Also, Bloomington's very interested in this too, because they have very fast traffic. And I know a lot of you have taken that into Bloomington. And it's like a 4-lane highway going down there. And so it would be in their best interest too to be looking at this. But definitely we could have a better redevelopment a lot faster if we were able to upgrade the infrastructure underneath the road as well as the road structure itself. So definitely that's on my list. And as far as for the Southdale Library, that's the leftover land will be a park. There will be no development except a park, and it will be programmed. And Hennepin County will keep ownership of that park, so it will never be sold to be developed. And it will stay with the library. We don't know. We may be talking to the city of Richfield or Edina to do programming there, maybe both of you. And so we will look at what makes sense and what you want to do as a collaboration and what your residents want for that park. We want it to be community oriented. So I'm really happy to say that that's probably even a better outcome than we could have thought. Sure, we could have made a lot of money on that, but sometimes it's not about the money. It's about the residents and the people. And I think that's the best use and the highest use.
Thank you. I think particularly for residents near there in Richfield, we're very glad to hear that.
Yes, they will. Other questions? Well, you guys know to call me. You got my cell phone number, for gosh sakes.
All right.
All of you.
Are there other questions? I am intrigued to, in the future, find out more about the guaranteed base income pilot and hear more about that. And that's just starting out. And also, I'm really hearing rave reviews about the Elevate Hennepin. So thank you for that economic development program.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Lots of possible Richfield businesses coming up. Yeah. Take care.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's so good to see everyone. Thank you for having me.
All right. So now we're going to move on to the consent calendar, and I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. The consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further council action on these items is necessary. On tonight's consent calendar is just one item, item A. Consider the adoption of a resolution appointing election judges and establishing an absentee ballot board for the Richfield School District election of November 7th, 2023. And I submit this item for your consideration as part of the consent calendar.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent calendar. Are there any questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've passed the consent calendar. Next, we're going to move on to item number 7, which is to consider the second reading and hold a public hearing for an ordinance amendment to the Richfield City Code Appendix D fee schedule related to building, planning, and zoning fees. So I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Whalen to conduct the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. City staff annually review fees to determine if charges for permits and services are appropriate Staff want to ensure the costs of issuance for fees and permits reflect the staff time and costs related to performing the services associated with each fee. Staff also work to ensure that costs for city services are in line with our peer communities, are not excessive, and are in compliance with state statute. Fees related to building permits, zoning, and other land use permits are established by Appendix D of the city's code, but unlike other fees included in the budget agenda, charges for building, planning, and zoning are required to be set by ordinance, not by resolution. I don't believe staff has anything to add to this item. Okay. So then I will open a public hearing if anyone would like to comment on this. I believe once again you can call in using the same number and such from earlier, which will, I think, be put back up on the screen. But is there anyone in person who wishes to speak to this item? Do not see any. We'll maybe give folks a minute. That number is back up on the screen. If you'd like to call in, you can call 1-415-655-0001, meeting ID 2634-625-3795, and password 1234. So we'll give folks maybe a minute to see if anyone calls in. So I still do not see anyone calling in. We can move ahead with the discussion. I would make a motion then to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We've closed the public hearing.
Thank you. So then I would make the motion to approve the attached ordinance amendment to Richfield City Code Appendix D, the fee schedule, related to building, planning, and zoning fees, and approve a resolution authorizing summary publication of said ordinance.
So moved. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right. If there are no comments, questions, or discussion, we can move to voting. All in favor of both approving the attached amendment and authorizing summary publication, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, we have passed the recommended action. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item number 8, to consider the approval of the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 8, subsection 840.13 of the Richfield City Code to prohibit smoking in public parks and during community events. The proposed ordinance includes establishing a petty misdemeanor offense. So I'm going to turn that over to Councilmember Hayford O'Leary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to clarify for anyone watching, this is us updating our codes in response to cannabis now being legal in the state of Minnesota. So from the staff report, in an effort to be consistent with existing park policies, staff made recommendations to the City Council at the July 25th, 2023 work session. Recommendations included prohibiting cannabis smoking in public parks and during community events. The inclusion of a petty misdemeanor offense allows the Public Safety Department to enforce the new ordinance. Staff and City Council members felt these recommendations were appropriate and in line with other restrictions currently in place for parks and open spaces. The draft as written does not prohibit smoking cannabis on streets unless it involves a community event such as PennFest, or sidewalks or pedestrian bike trails outside of parks. Nor does it prohibit the use of edible cannabinoid products and hemp-derived consumer products in parks, open spaces, or community events. Does staff have anything to add?
Yes, thank you, Council Member. Just want to note that we had some changes based on questions from council and feedback. We did make some changes to make the language so more precise on the ordinance. and I've asked Support Services Manager Jennifer Anderson to go through that. Also, please note, your screens may not reflect the updated ordinance, but it is updated online.
Actually, I believe Chris Swanson has fixed all that.
He's quicker than I can observe.
All right, as City Manager Rodriguez stated, there was an original draft of the proposed ordinance that was put out with your agendas packet, and subsequently, a lot of questions and conversation around the definition of open space. That was, we thought that was a good term to use to define some of the spaces in the community that were not parks. But like I said, through a lot of conversation, the amended language has open spaces removed. They are, instead we decided to more precisely define those areas within the city, specifically green spaces that are not parks but someday could be, and we included the addresses of those spaces within the proposed ordinance. Additionally, as Councilmember Hayford O'Leary stated, it is legal to smoke tobacco in a car in a park. It is not legal to use cannabis in a vehicle anywhere at any time. So we had to make that very clear as well. There were also questions from staff regarding trailways, and we've been in communication with Three Rivers Park District. They are taking this topic up now and don't have any, there aren't any ordinances on the books yet, but we will be keeping in communication with them. And we, as we've done many times, can always amend an ordinance if need be. So I believe that covers the changes that were made. The only other thing I would note in the staff report under the recommended action, it was inadvertently left out that you also schedule a second reading of the ordinance for October 10th, 2023.
So does that need to be added to the motion that we're scheduling a second reading for October 10th?
There's no requirement to include that in the motion. That will just automatically be set for a second reading. That's the process.
Thank you.
All right. I will go ahead and make that motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 8, subsection 840.13 of the Richfield City Code to prohibit smoking in public parks and during city-sponsored events or city co-sponsored community events, as well as establishing a petty misdemeanor offense.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Thank you. Just first off, thanks to staff for clarifying that. I appreciate the narrower definition and knowing exactly where it's expected. And then just, you know, to be very clear for anybody who might be watching or curious about this, that we do already have rules that prohibited smoking of tobacco in parks. This just expands and clarifies that. For the most part, I've heard this is a positive, you know, from community members, this is a positive common sense thing to do. A couple people thought it was maybe reactionary against marijuana. I do think it is very reasonable that if we do not allow tobacco smoking in parks, we also should not allow marijuana smoking. And I think just to reiterate something from our work session, that the new state law does prohibit smoking near minors, so I think this is also a good way to make that a little bit more unambiguous. So I think this is a narrowly tailored ordinance, and it is something I support.
Thank you for bringing this forward to us, because I think it's a common sense approach to say if you can't be smoking tobacco, you shouldn't be smoking cannabis, and so it's kind of consistent. I do notice that right now this is silent on the use of edible cannabinoid products, and I think that we probably need to have a discussion down the road. I know there was discussion of the low potency ones, and people didn't have a problem with that, but we haven't had a discussion of what about high potency ones. So just to know that right now this is silent on that, and we need to, down the road at some point, have a discussion and work session about it. But I like this first reading, and I appreciate all the clarifications. Other comments or questions? All right, so if there's no further discussion, we have the motion before us. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, we've approved the first reading. And as was stated, the second reading will be happening on October 10th. Next, we'll move on to consider a resolution approving the amended and restated business subsidy policy. Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
So in order to grant business subsidies, Minnesota statutes require state and local units of government to hold a public hearing and adopt criteria for awarding said subsidies. The Housing and Redevelopment Authority and the City Council adopted the existing business subsidy policy in 2002. The Economic Development Authority was established in 2017 and is also subject to the existing business subsidy policy. Much of the financial assistance provided by the HRA and EDA does not qualify as a business subsidy as defined by the Business Subsidy Act, such as assistance for housing development or assistance of $150,000 or less. The state legislature amended the Business Subsidy Act after the existing business subsidy policy was adopted. Staff worked with legal counsel to draft the amended and restated business subsidy policy, which is updated to comply with the amended Business Subsidy Act. The substantive changes include, first, that the wage floor requirements were increased from 110% of the federal minimum wage in the existing business subsidy policy to 125% of the state minimum wage. Second, that the goals outside of job creation and retention were revised to include a project that results in redevelopment along priority commercial corridors or in the downtown area to help meet the outcomes of the city's 2023-2026 strategic plan. And third, a clause was added that all references to the Business Subsidy Act include any and all amendments made after the amended and restated business subsidy policy is approved. The City Council held a public hearing on behalf of the City HRA and EDA on September 12th. After the public hearing was closed, the Council discussed whether language could be added to the amended and restated business subsidy policy, requiring that wage goals apply to all workers, including independent contractors, rather than just applying to employees who receive W-2s. The Council voted to table the item until September 26th and directed staff to consult with legal counsel. Legal counsel confirmed that when a business subsidy includes job and wage goals, the goals apply to the employees of the business, not to independent contractors. The Internal Revenue Service considers independent contractors to be self-employed, not employees. However, legal counsel suggested adding language to the amended and restated business subsidy policy, indicating that a business subsidy agreement must include a requirement for the recipient to comply with labor laws to ensure there are protections for employees. The revision was also made to the attached amended and restated business subsidy policy. The HRA and EDA will consider resolutions approving the amended and restated business subsidy policy at their meetings on October 16th. Does staff have anything to add before the motion?
We're available for questions.
I'll go ahead and just move it then. I move that we adopt a resolution approving the amended and restated business subsidy policy.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Whalen?
I just wanted to say thank you. I know it meant a delay and coming back to another meeting, but I think it was worth the time to check on that. My understanding now, the staff report feels like it explains it in a little bit of a backwards way, but that we would be setting expectations for jobs of these anyone we're providing a subsidy to, and that in order to meet those, it has to be a full employee. That and so there's still other places where having independent contractors is a loophole and provides an opportunity for businesses to, I would use the word, take advantage of workers, but in this case it has to be a full employee in order to meet the goals. And so appreciate the checking to make sure that that is the case and support for the ongoing work on the broader issue, but feel confident that the current resolution and proposed policy are not contributing to the larger problem.
All right, other comments or questions? And I also want to echo the thanks for putting in the emphasis on following the labor provisions for labor laws. I mean, it should be taken for granted that you follow labor laws, but it never hurts to emphasize that, and so I really appreciate that it's in there. Other questions, comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, and we've adopted a resolution for the amended and restated business subsidy policy. Next, we're moving on to item 10, to consider the appointment of youth commissioners to city advisory boards and commissions, and I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Advisory Commission terms for youth members are for 1 year and expire August 31st of each year. The City Manager's Office conducts recruitment seeking applicants to fill the youth vacancies each year. This recruitment includes information on the city's website, Facebook page, and communication with the local high schools. The appointment of Maya Urbasti, who is in our audience tonight. Welcome. Thank you for coming. To the Human Rights Commission, and Alexander Valley Orsonio to the Transportation Commission as youth commissioners. Does the staff have anything else to add?
Nothing more to add.
All right, so Councilmember Christensen has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Well, thank you, Maya, for hanging in there through the whole meeting, and also thank you to you and Alexander for applying as youth commissioners, because I think it's very important to hear the voice of our youth on our commissions. We're looking forward to working with you. So any other discussions? All right, all in favor of approving the appointments, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the appointments. So congratulations. Next, we'll move on to the city manager's report. City Manager Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will add my congratulations, and otherwise I don't have anything else to report.
All right, thank you. Then we'll move on to claims and payroll.
I would move to approve claims and payroll.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve claims and payroll. Is there any comments or questions? I just wanted to say, I know there's a couple of different formats that can be used, and I liked the one that they used this time. The way that they arranged them and grouped them, it's easier to understand. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor of approving claims and payroll, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the claims and payroll. Next, we'll move to hats off to hometown hits. Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Thank you. I was just going to mention that I am excited for the progress at the Taft Bike Park, and that the ribbon cutting will be Tuesday, October 3rd at 5 p.m. It is looking very cool over there. It's right by the Three Rivers Trailhead. And I actually saw, probably don't mess with the under construction thing, but I did see like a little kid practicing on it. It was pretty cute, so.
Thank you. Councilmember Christensen.
Yes, I'd just like to give a hats off to the Penn Fest celebration that we had in Richfield here this past week. It was a pleasure to meet new vendors, speak with people that I've already known in the past, and to meet more different types of individuals from different city and county representatives there.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. Wanted to highlight several events coming up in October. Some of these will have another chance at the next one, but I thought the post that the city put out on social media highlighting them was helpful. There's the Great Pumpkin Giveaway, the Bark in the Park, where you can dress up your dog in Halloween costume, Half Haunted Halloween at Woodlake Nature Center, which want to highlight, buy your tickets in advance. They will likely sell out and not have them at the door, so to speak, the entrance. And then the 5th annual community trunk or treat. And the last thing I wanted to highlight, is that voting has begun, and I am wondering if I can put our city clerk on the spot to let people know when their options are to come in and early vote if they would like to.
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Whalen. Early voting is available at City Hall Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. If you can't make it during those hours, we also have extended voting hours the Saturday before the election, which is November 7th. So the Saturday before that, we're open 9 to 3. And the Monday before the election, November 6th, we're open until 5 p.m. So come to the information desk, get an absentee ballot application, and one of us will come down to help you.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to emphasize that if you live anywhere in Richfield, City Hall is your early voting location. So come in and weigh in.
Thank you. So I wanted to do a hats off to Management Analyst Swanson, who has been serving as our Noise Oversight Commission member representative for the City of Richfield for the Airports Commission. I know there has been a number of people that have reached out with concerns about various airport noise situations, and you've been represented as well. So thank you for all your advocacy on behalf of the city. I also wanted to throw out another October event. We're having the renovation celebration tour of remodeled homes in Richfield on Saturday, October 7th. It's from 1 to 5 p.m. It's free to the public, and you can go on the city website to find out where the various remodeled programs are. So you just go to the richfieldmin.gov/home tour. And that will give you the sites that it's going to be happening at. We talked about youth commissioners tonight. The adult commissioner applications are opening up October 1st, so please watch for that on the city website. And finally, I wanted to talk about turkeys. So I've been getting some phone calls from residents that are concerned about aggressive turkeys. And so I reached out to Police Chief Henthorne, and he passed on the following advice. So, turkeys have been rampant in Richfield for years, and although they can be impressive when displaying their prowess, they aren't the kindest of birds. According to the Humane Society of the United States, wild turkeys have a pecking order of dominance that may view people or pets who act fearful as underlings, chasing them or blocking the entrance to homes or cars. If a wild turkey or a flock of turkeys has invaded your yard or neighborhood, it's important that you establish your dominance by hazing the turkey. Options to consider include: do not ground feed the turkeys. That just encourages them to come by. Pop open an umbrella so that you look like a larger bird. Wave your arms. Blow a whistle. Put down predator urine, and they have specifically said fox urine is very effective. Or you can spray them with water or turn on your sprinkler to discourage them from being in your yard. So just passing on those words of wisdom. So thank you, everyone, for all your work. And it is now in order to have a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, may I just clarify before we do so? The umbrella thing is real advice? You should really open an umbrella to look like a big turkey? It's yes. Okay, it's on the list. I'm going to start with the sprinkler if this happens to me, though. Anyway, I also move that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.